Have you ever wondered why, despite your best intentions, you end up procrastinating and surrendering to distractions? In the next few minutes, you'll discover how a simple dopamine reset can transform your brain and skyrocket your discipline like never before. Imagine waking up every morning with absolute mental clarity. Imagine having the ability to focus on your most important tasks without your mind constantly wandering. Imagine feeling unwavering motivation toward your goals, even when nobody is watching. This isn't a fantasy. It's the direct result of understanding and applying what Napoleon Hill discovered decades ago, that mastering your brain chemistry is the invisible foundation of all great achievement. Dopamine, that neurotransmitter your brain releases when you experience pleasure, has been hijacked by the modern world. Constant notifications, infinite scrolling, ultra-processed food, likes, pornography, video games, all designed to keep you in an endless cycle of instant gratification. And while your brain floods with easy dopamine, your capacity for deep work and authentic satisfaction silently deteriorates. But there is a solution, a proven method to regain control: the dopamine detox. It's not a passing trend or a superficial psychological trick. It's a fundamental realignment of your neural circuits based on principles that Napoleon Hill identified when studying the most successful people of his time. Self-control is the result of persistent inner resistance against influences that normally dominate most people, Hill wrote. And that resistance begins by resetting our dopamine levels to rediscover pleasure in discipline itself. First, let's understand what's really happening in your brain and why you've been struggling until now. Dopamine isn't simply the pleasure neurotransmitter as many believe. It is, above all, the neurotransmitter of motivation, of craving, of pursuit. When your brain anticipates a reward, it releases dopamine, creating the drive to act. The problem with today's world is that we're constantly bombarded by stimuli that trigger extreme dopamine spikes without any real effort. Your phone, for example, is an easy dopamine machine. Every notification, every new video, every message triggers small releases that, over time, desensitize your receptors. Have you noticed how you need more and more time on social media to feel the same satisfaction? How things that used to excite you now barely move the needle of your interest? This isn't coincidence. It's your brain adapting to artificially high dopamine levels, making normal life rewards, like completing a difficult task or learning something new, seem bland in comparison. Napoleon Hill saw this coming when he warned, "The mind clings to habit. It is almost impossible to uproot habits without substituting others more desirable." And here's the key. It's not simply about eliminating bad habits, but recalibrating your entire reward system. The first step for this reset is recognizing what your biggest dopamine triggers are. Take a moment right now. Think, what's the first thing you do when you wake up? How many times a day do you check your notifications? What do you turn to when you feel bored or anxious? These are your dopamine leaks, the channels through which your mental energy escapes instead of being channeled toward your true goals. Now let's do a quick exercise. Imagine your mind as a container with a water level representing your concentration capacity. Every time you give in to a distraction, check your phone, jump from one task to another, you make a small hole in that container. Over time, those holes drain your attention reserve until there's nothing left for what truly matters. The dopamine detox is the process of sealing those holes and allowing your mental container to fill up again. It's not about permanent deprivation, but temporary reset. As Hill said, self-control is merely concentrated control. And that concentration begins by eliminating distractions. Here's the challenge. Choose one full day, ideally a Sunday, for your first dopamine detox. For 24 hours, you'll eliminate all artificial dopamine sources. This means no social media, no digital entertainment, no refined sugars, no impulse shopping. Just you, your thoughts, and basic activities like reading, walking, meditating, or conversing in person. The first few hours will be difficult. Your brain, accustomed to those constant spikes, will protest. You'll feel boredom, restlessness, even anxiety. But this is exactly what Napoleon Hill described as the test of persistent desire. It's the moment when you discover how determined you really are to transform your life. Allow yourself to feel that discomfort. Observe it with curiosity, not judgment. As the hours pass, you'll notice something fascinating. Your mind begins to calm down. Simple things start generating more satisfaction. A deep conversation, the beauty of a sunset, the real taste of unprocessed food. All these natural pleasures that had been overshadowed by artificial stimuli begin to shine again. When you complete your 24 hours of detox, don't rush back to your old habits. This is the crucial moment where most people fail. Instead, take advantage of your newly discovered clarity to establish new rules of engagement with technology and other dopamine triggers. As Hill advised, don't wait. The time will never be just right. Start where you stand, use what you have, and do what you can. Are you ready to commit to this change? If you truly want to transform your discipline and reach that unlimited potential you know you have inside, take the first step today. Mark it on your calendar, your dopamine detox day. And remember, this isn't an exercise in self-punishment, but self-mastery, the quality that Napoleon Hill identified as common among all great leaders and creators in history. If you've made it this far, you've already shown a level of commitment that sets you apart. Subscribe now to receive more strategies like this one that can transform your mind and multiply your results. And don't forget to hit the bell to be notified immediately when we publish exclusive new content on personal development and success. Now let's dive deeper into how the dopamine detox literally reconfigures your brain for disciplined action. And this is where the real magic begins to manifest. Your brain works according to a principle that Napoleon Hill called the law of habit. Every time you repeat an action, especially one that results in a reward, you strengthen the neural pathways associated with that action. Over time, these paths become mental highways that your attention automatically travels. The problem is that modern technologies have hijacked this natural mechanism. Every time you interrupt your work to check notifications, you're paving a mental highway toward distraction. When you spend hours on digital content specifically designed to keep you hooked, you're training your brain to resist deep work. Have you wondered why it's so hard for you to maintain concentration on an important task? Why, after barely 10 minutes of meaningful work, your mind is already looking for an escape? It's not a character flaw. It's the direct result of the neural pathways you've reinforced, often without realizing it. The dopamine detox interrupts this harmful pattern. By temporarily eliminating hyperdopaminergic stimuli, you allow those overstimulated neural pathways to begin weakening. It's like letting a path in the forest become overgrown from lack of use. At the same time, when you direct your attention toward more meaningful activities, though initially less stimulating, you begin to forge new paths. Napoleon Hill expressed it perfectly. Concentrated thought is a dynamic force that has the power to correlate, inspire, create, motivate, attract, and develop the action of the creative imagination faculty. But this concentration cannot occur in a brain constantly distracted by artificial dopamine spikes. Imagine your brain as a garden. Every thought, every action is a seed. The activities you choose to water with your attention are the ones that will flourish. The dopamine detox is simply a method to stop watering the weeds of distraction and start nourishing the flowers of discipline and deep concentration. Now, what specifically happens in your brain during and after a dopamine detox? Studies have shown that even a brief period of abstinence from hyperdopaminergic stimuli can significantly increase the density of dopamine receptors. In simple terms, your brain becomes more sensitive to normal dopamine levels. This means that after an effective detox, activities like completing an important task, exercising, or even simply keeping your space clean and organized will generate more satisfaction than before. The natural rewards of life become rewarding again. Wouldn't it be transformative to approach your most challenging projects with enthusiasm instead of resistance? Can you imagine how your life would change if you could maintain unwavering concentration for hours without feeling the constant urge to check your phone? Neuroscientist Andrew Huberman has confirmed what Napoleon Hill intuited, that dopamine isn't really about pleasure itself, but about the anticipation of pleasure. It's the fuel that drives action. When you recalibrate your dopamine system, you literally recalibrate your motivation engine. Let's do another practical exercise. Think about an important task you've been postponing, something you know would significantly impact your life if completed, but that always seems to take a back seat to more immediately gratifying distractions. Now visualize completing that task, not just the end result, but the process itself. Imagine the feeling of total concentration, the flow of ideas, the satisfaction of overcoming obstacles. Feel the pride and confidence that will come with its completion. This visualization isn't a trivial exercise. Napoleon Hill dedicated entire chapters to the power of applied imagination. When you vividly visualize completing a difficult task, you're pre-activating the same dopamine circuits that will motivate you to actually perform it. Repeat this visualization daily, especially after your dopamine detox, when your brain is more receptive to new patterns. As Hill said, whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve, but only if your reward circuits are correctly calibrated to value achievement over distraction. This is the second critical aspect of the dopamine reset. It's not just about eliminating negative stimuli, but actively reorienting your reward system toward what truly matters. Do you know what's most powerful about this approach? It creates a virtuous circle. Each small disciplined victory releases authentic dopamine, reinforcing the behavior and making the next disciplined action easier. Over time, discipline itself becomes its own reward. Napoleon Hill observed this phenomenon in every successful person he studied. Discipline comes from within. Discipline is correction or regulation of oneself for self-improvement. This improvement isn't abstract. It's neurological, it's chemical, it's real. Now, if you're enjoying these ideas and want to truly transform your life through the power of your mind, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. We regularly share strategies based on science and the timeless wisdom of masters like Napoleon Hill to help you unlock your true potential. Let's continue with the third crucial aspect of the dopamine detox, the gradual and sustainable implementation of this reset in your daily life. Because, as Napoleon Hill well knew, victory is always the result of consistent and well-directed effort. It's not simply about doing an occasional detox when you feel your discipline crumbling. It's about systematically redesigning your environment and habits to keep your dopamine levels optimized for long-term success. Start by creating what we might call artificial dopamine-free zones in your day. For example, the first 90 minutes after waking are crucial for establishing the neurological tone of your day. Instead of immediately reaching for your phone, flooding your brain with information, notifications, and stimuli before you're even fully conscious, create a morning routine that nurtures your mind. This could include meditation, light exercise, inspirational reading, visualization of your goals, or simply consciously enjoying your breakfast. The important thing is that you're present, not scattered among multiple digital stimuli. Napoleon Hill repeatedly emphasized the importance of these first moments of the day. The subconscious mind works continuously, all the hours we are awake and all the hours we sleep. The thoughts you program your mind with upon waking will subtly influence your mental state throughout the day. Another effective strategy is to implement what we'll call intermittent dopamine fasting. Just as intermittent fasting has revolutionized our understanding of nutrition, strategic periods of abstinence from artificial dopamine can revolutionize your mental productivity. Try this. For every 90 minutes of concentrated work, allow yourself 15 to 20 minutes to rest and, if you wish, consume digital content or check notifications. This rhythm works in harmony with your natural attention cycles, known as ultradian cycles, and prevents the dopamine oversaturation that comes from constant exposure to digital stimuli. Have you noticed that when you're completely immersed in an important task, you frequently experience a flow state where time seems distorted and you feel energized instead of exhausted? That flow state is partially the result of a dopamine system functioning optimally, motivating you without overstimulating you. Napoleon Hill referred to this state as the mastermind. a superior mental state where creative solutions and extraordinary productivity become natural. But this state is practically impossible to achieve when your brain is constantly interrupted by small doses of digital dopamine. Let's think about another useful analogy. Your attention capacity is like a muscle. Each time you resist the temptation of instant gratification and maintain your focus on a meaningful task, you're exercising that muscle. Over time, it strengthens. The dopamine detox is simply a high-intensity training for your attention muscle. Let's do another practical exercise. Identify your biggest dopamine sink, that activity or digital platform that consumes most of your time without providing real value. For many, it's social media or certain games specifically designed to hook you with artificial dopamine loops. Now, establish a firm boundary. This activity will only be allowed after you've completed your 3 most important tasks of the day, not before. No exceptions. This simple reordering creates powerful conditioning in your brain. Meaningful work comes before gratification. As Hill said, self-control leads to true control of destiny through control of self. And that control begins with these small daily decisions about how you manage your attention economy. Do you find it difficult to maintain these boundaries? Hill had a solution for that too: the power of definite purpose. A definite purpose, he wrote, is the starting point of all achievement. When you have absolute clarity about why you're doing what you're doing, when you can connect your daily discipline with a greater purpose that deeply resonates with you, you'll find a source of motivation that transcends the ups and downs of dopamine. Take a moment now. Close your eyes if possible. Ask yourself, why do I want more discipline and focus? Don't settle for superficial answers like, to be more productive. Go deeper. What will that productivity allow you to achieve? What impact will it have on your life and the lives you touch? What legacy are you trying to build? When you connect your dopamine detox with this greater purpose, it stops being a restriction and becomes a tool for liberation, a path toward the most capable, focused, and fulfilled version of yourself. And that's what we'll talk about in the next point. How the dopamine detox not only optimizes your brain for discipline, but also unlocks higher levels of creativity and problem-solving that remain inaccessible to the scattered mind. Napoleon Hill dedicated years to studying the connection between mental control and creativity. He discovered something fascinating: great ideas, innovative solutions, transformative perspectives rarely emerge in an overstimulated mind. They require what he called definite thinking, a state of deep and sustained concentration. The problem is that excessive dopamine, the normal state for most of us in the digital era, creates a restless brain, always looking for the next stimulus, unable to remain in the kind of deep contemplation where great ideas are born. Think about it. When was the last time you had a truly original idea? Not a variation of something you saw online, but a genuine connection your mind created from within. For many, these moments have become increasingly rare. The dopamine detox restores your capacity for this type of deep, creative thinking. When you reduce sensory overload and allow your mind to settle into its own natural rhythm, you begin to access what Hill called infinite intelligence, that source of wisdom and creativity that exists beyond superficial reactive thinking. Recent studies in neuroscience confirm this intuition. The state of mind-wandering or default mode network that activates when we're not actively consuming external content is fundamental for memory consolidation, creative problem-solving, and generating new ideas. But this state has become increasingly rare in our hyper-connected lives. Have you noticed that some of your best ideas come when you're doing something mundane, showering, walking, just before falling asleep? This happens because in those moments, your mind finally has space to process information at a deeper level without the constant interruption of new stimuli. The dopamine detox amplifies these moments of clarity. By systematically reducing informational noise, you create more space for your natural genius to emerge. Napoleon Hill described this process as the chemistry of the mind. When you balance your neurotransmitters, particularly dopamine, your brain can achieve what he called harmony of purpose, a state where all your mental faculties work together toward your highest goals. Let's do another practical exercise to experience this directly. After completing your next 24-hour dopamine detox, dedicate 30 minutes to sitting with a significant problem you've been trying to solve. It could be a challenge in your career, a stalled creative project, or an important decision you've been postponing. Don't bring any external research, no Google, no reference books, just you and your focused mind on the problem. Have a notebook handy to capture your thoughts, but don't pressure yourself to immediately arrive at a solution. Simply allow your mind to explore the problem from multiple angles. Observe how, in this state of distraction-free receptivity, connections emerge that you hadn't noticed before. Ideas that had been buried under layers of informational noise begin to naturally surface. As Hill said, imagination is the workshop where all man-created plans are formed. But that workshop needs silence to function optimally. It needs the mental clarity that only comes when your dopamine circuits aren't overloaded. This is the paradox many don't understand. Temporary restriction creates lasting freedom. By consciously limiting certain stimuli through the dopamine detox, you expand your capacity for original thinking, sustained concentration, and inspired action. Isn't it fascinating how our mind works? We're conditioned to believe we constantly need more. More information, more entertainment, more stimuli. When in reality, true power comes from the ability to do more with less. To transform the information we already have into applicable wisdom through deep reflection. Napoleon Hill elegantly expressed it. Knowledge will not attract money unless it is organized and intelligently directed through practical plans of action. And that organization, that intelligent direction, requires a brain that isn't constantly distracted by the pursuit of the next dopamine release. If you're enjoying these ideas and want to dive even deeper into how to reprogram your mind for extraordinary success, make sure to subscribe now and turn on notifications. Every week, we share proven strategies that have transformed the lives of thousands of people by helping them master their internal psychology. Now let's explore the fourth fundamental aspect of the dopamine detox, how this practice transforms not just your productivity, but the very quality of your life experience. Because as Napoleon Hill well knew, success without satisfaction is an empty achievement. One of the most profound effects of the dopamine reset is the restoration of your ability to experience pleasure and satisfaction in simple things. In a brain oversaturated with artificial dopamine, normal life experiences, a quiet conversation, natural beauty, a modest achievement, lose their luster. Nothing seems enough compared to the intensity of digital stimulation. This creates what psychologists call anhedonia, the inability to experience pleasure in normally pleasurable activities. It's a vicious circle. The less satisfaction you find in real life, the more you turn to intense digital stimuli, which further desensitizes your reward system. The dopamine detox breaks this cycle. By allowing your dopamine receptors to recover, you rediscover pleasure in the ordinary. The taste of a simple meal, the satisfaction of completing a task, the warmth of a genuine human connection, all these experiences regain their natural richness. Have you noticed how after a few days away from screens, during a vacation for example, you seem to see the world with new eyes? Colors are more vibrant, your mind is more present, you feel more connected to your surroundings and the people around you. That's not a placebo effect. It's your reward system returning to its natural sensitivity. Napoleon Hill understood this connection between internal satisfaction and external achievement when he wrote, "Happiness is found in doing, not merely in possessing." When your brain is optimized to value the very process of meaningful effort, not just the external reward, you enter a state of sustainable satisfaction that no artificial stimulus can provide. Let's do another exercise to experience this directly. During your next dopamine detox, choose a simple activity that you would normally overlook or perform distractedly. It could be preparing a meal, organizing a space, or taking a walk around your neighborhood. Perform this activity with absolute mindfulness. Observe every sensation, every detail. If you're cooking, feel the texture of the ingredients. Smell the aromas developing. Observe the changing colors and shapes. If you're walking, notice the rhythm of your steps. the sensation of air on your skin, the subtle sounds of your environment. What you'll discover is amazing. In the absence of intense digital stimulation, your mind naturally amplifies the sensory details of the present experience. This is your dopamine-hungry brain, finding satisfaction in immediate reality instead of artificial gratification. Napoleon Hill referred to this ability as the art of transmutation, the capacity to transform ordinary experience into extraordinary through the power of directed attention. It's a skill that atrophies in a constantly distracted brain, but naturally flourishes after an effective dopamine detox. This renewed capacity for satisfaction isn't just a side benefit of the dopamine detox. It's fundamental to sustainable success. As Hill observed, wealth without satisfaction is poverty of the worst kind. Without the ability to genuinely enjoy your achievements, you're trapped in an endless pursuit of more, a hunger that no external success can satisfy. Think about the most successful and balanced people you know personally, not just those with impressive achievements, but those who also radiate a sense of inner peace and genuine satisfaction. Invariably, you'll find that these people aren't slaves to constant stimulation. They have the ability to be fully present, to work with sustained concentration, and to enjoy simple moments. This balance is the direct result of a healthy dopaminergic system, one that responds appropriately to both effort and reward, that finds satisfaction in the very process of meaningful work, not just in external results. As Hill said, success requires no more than physical or mental effort applied through self-control. And that self-control begins with the conscious management of your brain chemistry through practices like the dopamine detox. Repeat this mantra with me. Each moment of self-control strengthens my inner freedom. Because that's the fundamental truth. Discipline isn't restriction, it's liberation from the control that external stimuli have over you. And that's what we'll talk about in the fifth and deepest level of the dopamine detox. How this practice not only optimizes your brain for discipline and satisfaction, but fundamentally recalibrates your relationship with reality itself. Napoleon Hill, in his exhaustive studies of the most successful minds of his time, identified a consistent pattern. Great leaders and creators had a unique relationship with reality. They weren't passive toward it. They actively shaped it through the power of directed attention. Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve, Hill wrote. But this ability to conceive and believe, to clearly visualize a desired future and systematically work toward it, requires a specific type of mental focus that is practically impossible in a brain addicted to artificial dopamine. When you're constantly jumping between notifications, videos, and fragmented stimuli, your mind is conditioned for a type of reactive and superficial thinking. You lose the capacity for what Hill called original thinking, that state of deep concentration where you can truly shape your own narrative instead of simply reacting to external narratives. The dopamine detox restores this fundamental capacity. By temporarily freeing yourself from the tyranny of external stimulation, you create the mental space necessary for what Hill described as the chemistry of the mind, that internal alchemical process where thoughts transform into concrete plans and plans into tangible results. Modern neuroscientists have confirmed what Hill intuited, that sustained attention literally reconfigures your brain through neuroplasticity. Each time you maintain your focus on an important goal, instead of giving in to distraction, you're not just resisting a momentary temptation, you're physically reorganizing your neural circuits. Have you wondered why some people seem to manifest their desires almost magically, while others remain trapped in patterns of frustration and stagnation? The difference isn't in some mystical power, but in their capacity to maintain unwavering concentration on their goals, free from the fragmentation imposed by modern dopaminergic addiction. As Hill said, power is always in the hands of the person who can make a decision and hold it. And this capacity for sustained decision is precisely what the dopamine detox restores. By recalibrating your relationship with gratification, you fundamentally recalibrate your capacity for consistent and focused action. Let's do a final exercise to crystallize this concept. After your next complete dopamine detox, when your mind is clear and receptive, dedicate an uninterrupted hour to what Hill called the definition of a definite major purpose. Sit with a physical notebook, not digital, and answer these questions with absolute honesty. What do I truly want to achieve in this life? What unique contribution can I make to the world based on my talents and passions? What am I willing to sacrifice to achieve this purpose? What concrete steps can I take in the next 24 hours, 7 days, and 30 days to move toward this purpose? The clarity with which you can answer these questions after a dopamine detox will be remarkably different from what you would experience in your habitual mental state. You'll see connections that were previously hidden. You'll feel a conviction that transcends superficial motivation. Napoleon Hill called this state the mastermind, a superior level of mental functioning where creative solutions flow naturally and obstacles reveal themselves as disguised opportunities. This state isn't a myth or an exaggeration. It's the natural functioning of a human brain operating with optimized biochemistry. The dopamine reset is simply the gateway to this state. By temporarily eliminating the distractions that keep your brain in a superficial processing mode, you allow your natural genius to emerge. That innate intelligence that Hill insisted exists within every person. Imagine waking up every morning with crystal clear purpose clarity. Imagine approaching each task not as an obligation, but as a deliberate step toward a bigger vision. Imagine ending each day with the deep satisfaction that comes not from external stimulation, but from meaningful internal progress. This is the reality that the dopamine detox makes possible. It's not a magical solution. It requires commitment, practice, and the willingness to resist the cultural current of instant gratification. But as Hill said, great achievements have always been preceded by long periods of quiet preparation. Are you willing to commit to this quiet preparation? Are you ready to reclaim control of your brain chemistry and, by extension, control of your destiny? Modern society is designed to keep you distracted, reactive, and dependent on external stimuli. Algorithms are optimized not for your success, but for your attention. Apps aren't designed to liberate you, but to hook you. Every notification, every update, every new viral content, all competing for the most valuable resource you possess, your focused attention. Napoleon Hill warned about this decades before the digital era when he wrote, "Your mind can be compared to a garden, which may be intelligently cultivated or allowed to run wild. But whether cultivated or neglected, it must and will bring forth. If no useful seeds are put into it, then an abundance of useless weed seeds will fall therein and will continue to produce their kind." The dopamine detox is simply the process of weeding that garden, of consciously eliminating the influences that pull you away from your greater purpose and creating space for the kind of deep thinking and disciplined action that inevitably lead to success. When you understand this, when you truly internalize that the battle for your attention is actually a battle for your destiny, the dopamine detox stops being a self-help practice and becomes an act of personal liberation. As Hill said, any idea, plan, or purpose may be placed in the mind through repetition of thought. The question is, who is programming your mind? You through conscious and directed attention, or the countless external forces competing to fragment your attention and drain your mental energy? The dopamine detox returns that power of self-determination to you. It allows you to say, as Hill declared, "My brain is only a receiver, not the electricity itself, and I have the power to select the thought vibrations which I will receive." Now, before concluding, let me offer you a concrete action plan to implement everything we've discussed. Phase 1. Your first complete dopamine detox, 24 hours. Choose a day in the next 7 days for your first complete detox. Eliminate all digital devices, refined sugars, caffeine, and any other source of artificial dopamine. Prepare yourself with some analog activities, physical books, notebooks for writing, walks in nature. Consciously observe your reactive impulses and resistances during the process. Phase 2. Daily implementation. 2 weeks. Protect the first 2 hours of your day from any digital input. Establish blocks of deep work of 90 minutes, followed by 20-minute breaks. Create clear rules about when you can check notifications and emails, no more than 3 times a day. Eliminate one major source of artificial dopamine, the one that affects you most. during this entire phase. Phase 3. Consolidation, 1 month. Implement a weekly 12-hour dopamine detox, can be every Sunday. Create a dopamine budget, conscious limits on how much time you spend on high-stimulation activities. Actively cultivate natural sources of dopamine. Exercise, meaningful achievements, deep social connections. Document the changes in your mental clarity, productivity, and overall satisfaction. As Napoleon Hill said, "First the habit, then the habit makes you." By following this plan, you are literally reprogramming your neural circuits to value sustainable achievement over instant gratification. And here's the transformative reality. Over time, discipline itself becomes a source of pleasure. Your recalibrated brain begins to release dopamine in anticipation of deep work, sustained concentration, meaningful progress toward your goals. The vicious cycle of addiction to distraction becomes a virtuous cycle of intrinsic motivation. Isn't that the greatest power of all? Not depending on external stimuli for your motivation, but finding an inexhaustible source of drive within yourself. As Hill observed, "Fortune favors the bold." And there is no greater boldness than the willingness to look inward. Confront your patterns of dependency and consciously reclaim control of your own biochemistry. Imagine for a moment what your life would be like a year from now if you systematically implemented the dopamine detox. Visualize the mental clarity you would have, the confidence that would come from knowing you can keep your word to yourself, the achievements you would have accumulated through consistent and focused action. This isn't a fantasy, it's the natural and predictable result of aligning your brain chemistry with your highest aspirations. In conclusion, let me share a truth that Napoleon Hill discovered after studying the most successful minds of his generation. Self-control is the most powerful manifestation of willpower. Through self-control, man rises to the highest perfection and can best defend himself against the accidents of circumstance. The dopamine detox is simply a modern tool to develop that self-control in a world designed to weaken it. It's not a passing trend or a trick. It's a fundamental recalibration of your relationship with your own mind. The ability to delay gratification, to maintain concentration despite distractions, to persist through initial discomfort toward meaningful achievement. These are the qualities that have defined great leaders, thinkers, and creators throughout history. And these are precisely the qualities that the dopamine detox restores and strengthens. The choice is now yours. You can continue living at the mercy of algorithms and notifications, allowing external forces to direct your attention and, by extension, your life. Or you can reclaim the helm of your own mind through the power of conscious dopamine reset. As Hill said, "If you cannot do great things, do small things in a great way." And there is nothing greater than the act of self-determination that the dopamine detox represents. Now, if this message has resonated with you, I invite you to do 2 things. First, write in the comments, "I choose to control my dopamine, not allow my dopamine to control me." Make it public. Create that commitment to yourself and to this community. Second, share this video with someone you know is struggling with distraction, procrastination, or lack of mental clarity. It might be exactly what they need to hear right now. And of course, if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, do it right now and turn on the notification bell. We regularly publish content designed to help you optimize your mind, body, and spirit for extraordinary success. Remember, your mind is your most valuable asset, and what you do with it today determines who you will be tomorrow. Choose wisely. Choose control. Choose discipline. Your future self will thank you.